Test.
Mine.
It's in the car.
Okay.
So this way.
If not,
Yeah, cameras.
phone is hot now.
That's correct.
If you want. That's what I'm gonna do.
Last year, was high class. We needed. Oh. For a lifetime of events now. I think I'm getting more on that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good. Oh, man.
Making sure everyone.
You take one of those.
Yeah, you're good.
Just.
Got it.
There we go. Let me, I'll make sure. You got a microphone?
I do.
Sweet.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, another day. Yeah.
Got this. Got this. So do I look for Charlie?
Yeah.
When you see them, give it.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. I can do that. This computer just doesn't listen.
Yeah, basically. Whenever.
When I got it. You doing good? Yeah.
For my.
Hey, Thomas.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Hello, everyone. I will now call the 25th session of the 52nd Senate to order. Today is April 5th.
With personal privilege, if anyone in this room needs an interpreter, please wave at the interpreters. They're in that bottom right corner over there. So if you need one, they are here. Thanks.
It is the 25th session of the 52nd Senate, and today is April 5th, 2023. We will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand and join me if you're willing and able. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'll move on to the CSU land acknowledgement. Colorado State University acknowledges with respect that the land we are on today is the traditional and ancestral homelands of the Arapaho, Cheyenne, and Ute nations and peoples. This is also a site of trade, gathering, and healing with numerous other native tribes. We recognize the indigenous peoples as original stewards of this land and all the relatives within it. As these words of acknowledgement are spoken and heard, the ties nations have to their traditional homelands are renewed and reaffirmed. CSU is founded as a land grant institution. We accept that our mission must encompass access to education and inclusion, as significantly that our founding came at a dire cost to Native nations and peoples whose land this university was built upon. This acknowledgement is the education and inclusion we must practice in recognizing our institutional history, responsibility, and commitment. We'll now swear in new senators and associate senators. So if that's you, please come to the front and a justice will administer the oath of office. Seeing none, we'll move on to beginning roll call. The clerk will call the roll.
Speaker DeSalvo.
Here.
Speaker Pro Tempore Carcedo Perez. Here. Officer Bakari.
Present.
Parliamentarian Clark.
Here.
Chair Aslan. Here. Chair Ritter. Here. Chair Salazar.
Here.
Chair Schumer. Present. Chair Trump.
Present.
Senator Abu Dhabi. Here. Senator Arango Silva.
Here.
Senator Amy.
Here.
She's present.
Senator Ayala. Here. Senator Benjamin.
Here.
Senator Bishara.
Here.
Senator Deeds.
Here.
Senator Benson.
Present.
Senator Doyle.
Here.
Senator Gotcha.
Here.
Senator Hill.
Here.
Senator Johnson Cole.
Present.
Senator Johnson McAllister. Here. Senator Kelly.
Here.
Senator Kilburn.
Here.
Senator Kramer. Here. Senator Laffey. Present. Senator Laffey. Present. Senator Liebe. Present. Senator Lowe.
Present.
Senator Lunt.
Here.
Senator McCall. Here. Senator Melchior.
Present.
Senator Morgan. Here. Senator Melka.
Present.
Senator Mayembe. Senator Paraiso. Here. Senator Reed. Here. Senator Reese.
Here.
Senator Sanchez.
Here.
Senator Zodi. Senator Schmidt. Here. Senator Shetty.
Yeah.
Senator Taylor.
Here.
Senator Neely. Here. Senator Winston. Present. Senator Wright. Present. Senator Garbone. Senator Barnett. Senator Barton.
Present.
Senator Chacon.
Here.
Sorry, Associate DeConte. Associate Ford.
Here.
Associate Jacob.
Here.
Associate Kelly. Here. Associate Kimberling.
Here.
Associate Menanti.
Here.
Associate Burke.
Here.
Associate Scott Perez. Associate Simpson. Here. Associate Gistav. Here. Associate Forrest Doxy.
Here.
Associate Zhao. Zhou. Did I say Associate Scott Perez?
Yeah. That's here, one of the mics, it's not working.
With 45 senators and associates, we have.
We'll now move on to consent agenda. Is there any consent? Yeah, Senator Love.
I would like to motion to extend gallery input by an hour and a half, so it is 2 hours to go along to give folks who have showed up to speak and share their stories today time to do so.
Second.
Okay, I don't think we'll need any discussion on this. It is in the bylaws, so this would be a vote to suspend the bylaws.
Actually, it is at the end of the bylaw that says that everything except confidence business requires a majority vote and does not need to like suspend the bylaws so long as it is like under 2 hours at least. Confidence business is the only one that requires a suspension of the bylaws.
It also says though in the bylaws that it cannot go past 20 minutes of gallery input.
It's 30, I believe.
Oh, 30. So in order to surpass that limit, we would need to suspend the bylaws.
All right, then I motion to suspend the bylaws.
Second.
Okay, I don't think we need any discussion on this unless someone otherwise says so. So we'll do this by placard vote. All in favor of suspending the bylaws, raise your placard.
Please hold them up by.
Okay, go and put them down. All opposed? Then abstentions? And so to suspend the bylaws, I do believe you need a 2/3 majority to do that. So that means that this motion fails. Senator Redfire.
Point of order, the bylaws state in rule 5, time limits. Subsection G, time extensions. Any time limit with the exception of guest presentation, conference clock, past additional 2 hours may be extended by simple majority vote of the Senate.
Okay, then shall we revote? Is that what we'll do now?
Yeah.
I don't, I would defer to parliamentarian Clark as the expert on the bylaws for this scenario.
Yeah, so according to the most updated documents that we have in the bylaws, the gallery input section isn't supposed to exceed 30 minutes, although you are correct about the last provision in Rule 5 with time extensions. And so, yes, any time extensions would be a majority vote. It wouldn't require 2/3.
Okay, so we'll revote to do a time extension if someone wants to make that motion.
I motion to extend gallery input, so that way it is 2 hours long.
Second.
Okay, so what we're voting on now is extending gallery input be 2 hours long. All those in favor, raise your placard.
Hold them high, please.
5, 6,
2, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Hold them up. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, I got 15. 15.
Thank you, go ahead, put them down. All those opposed?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
And abstentions.
12.
That's why.
12.
13, 12, 13, 4, 6, 10, 12, 13, 17.
So the vote of 15 to 12 to 15 to 12 to 18, I believe. This motion does pass. So gallery input will be extended to 2 hours. Is there any other dissent to the agenda? Seeing none, we'll move on to our gallery input. I first want to thank everyone that's here to speak in gallery input for doing so. This is an issue that, of course, you're passionate about, and it's an issue that I'm passionate about. If I heard that the student body leader, one of my leaders, was discriminating against the disabled community, I would be angry, rightfully so. I would be angry. But I want to take just a couple minutes to share my story. It's often said that it takes.
Point of order, if you would like to speak in gallery input, you may go into the gallery, rescind your position, and let Speaker Pro Tempore Carpenter Press take over. Thank you, I yield.
Senator, there have been multiple times throughout this year where I've made statements like this, and there has been.
Every time it's been against the rules. You are not allowed an opinion as the chair of the Senate.
It's not my opinion. I'm not
You are
I'm not
allowed to
giving an
give
opinion,
anything
Senator.
personal. You get to follow the rules exactly, and this is not it.
Senator, I'm going to continue.
This is
And-
against the rules. Fine, then I move to overrule the speaker.
Okay,
I
well,
second that.
we'll do that vote then. And I have to step down for that because I'm not allowed to
You
chair
don't
during
get to
that
speak on
vote.
this.
I'm explaining why I'm
No.
stepping down, Senator.
Can I get a clarification on what you're trying to overrule? His ability to speak right now or to? His ability to
Right
do
now.
this. He can be right there and talk if he wants to.
Then I guess I'll stand up.
But he gets to raise his hand.
And I'll walk
Sounded
back
like
there.
I think he's stepping down for this meeting. If I'm correct. Senator Love, do you have something?
I was gonna speak your gallery.
Okay, we haven't gone into gallery input yet. If you all would give me a moment, please, just to get situated. Alrighty, and with that, we are going to begin 2 hours of gallery input. Okay, still allocating, I believe it's 5 minutes for each speaker. I think that's just. So with that, we'll begin with the first reading placard, speaker to Sol.
Point of order, some of the members that have first, they're in the process of trying to get up.
Yeah.
They still raise their hand first.
Senator Love, speaker to Sol.
Point of personal privilege, is it okay if I do my gallery input here since I'm in my wheelchair and that would be kind of difficult to get all the way up there?
Yes.
Okay, awesome, thank you. So I want to first thank everybody who came out tonight. I know that there's a lot of folks on Zoom. I know that there's folks in the gallery. There are pro staff here, students and alumni. And I first want to just express my gratitude to y'all. All of your stories matter so much. I know that this campus is very inaccessible. I've heard this entire year in my role as a Student Disability Center Senator, how hard it is to sometimes get your faculty members to use your accommodations, to find transportation on this campus, to make your voice heard in really meaningful ways. And I also want to recognize that even being present in this room, even if you don't plan to speak tonight, even if you don't plan to share your story, just being here, being on Zoom is really great. There's a lot of disability history that we often erase, that we often seek to forget. We want to feel more comfortable and feel like everybody is equal, but that's not true. Up until the 1970s, there were these things called ugly laws that prohibited anyone who deviated from the norms from existing in public spaces. If you had a limb difference, if you used mobility aids, you had a physical disability, if your gender presentation was not the way that they thought it should be, it was illegal for you to be in public. And those were not rescinded until the 1970s. Our existence is resistance. We are powerful because we move through this world differently. Disability is really about difference. It's about valuing our differences in each other. It's about seeing, listening, feeling in our bodies and our minds differently than the world around us. I want to emphasize that this is about community tonight, because people in power on this campus have been abusing that power. Whether it's faculty members, staff members, student staff, people have been acting as if they are above the federal law for too long. The only people who can dispute accommodations is the Student Disability Center. And oftentimes we are too afraid, too scared to actually voice our needs because it's so hard and humiliating and embarrassing when you have to sit there and beg, dignified begging, to just be in the room and to be in the classroom. And so I want to encourage folks tonight to speak about why accommodations are important, why accessibility is important, why the future must be accessible. It is 2023. Why am I up here in 2023 talking about the bare minimum? Why am I up here talking about the bare minimum? I am sick of everybody who has been complicit in this campus, overlooking their disabled peers, overlooking us because you don't want to look at us, because you can only stare at us when we're not looking, because you already always stare anyways. And I want tonight to be a call to action for every single person in this room, because I am sick after a year of asking for the bare minimum compliance that I have to be up here organizing this. I want to be writing bills like Senator Dietz is writing. I want to be writing bills that make the space beautiful for people with disabilities, that says we belong here because we do. We do. And with that, I want to hand it off to my beautiful community. We are powerful. We are amazing. The way that we exist is brilliant, and there will never, ever be anything about us without us. Thank you.
Thank you for all of that. And thank you, Senator Lowe, for your advocacy and your work.
I'll just reiterate what I started to say. I want to thank everyone who's here for being here because it's important. It's an issue that's important to you, and it's an issue that's important to me. And if anyone tells you otherwise, they're lying. I want to share my story. It's often said that it takes a village to raise a child, and I was lucky enough to have my grandmother in my village. For the last 20 years of her life, and the entire time that I knew her, she lived as a double amputee by the legs. She was in a wheelchair. She was a wheelchair user. And she lived an incredibly independent life. One of the strongest people I will ever meet, hands down. I saw the challenges that she would face in her private life and her public life regarding her disability. I went everywhere with her, and anywhere that wasn't accessible to her, she couldn't go. That deeply hurt her, and that deeply hurt me. The love and respect that I had for my grandmother translated to the love and respect that I have for the disabled community. I'm under no obligation to tell any of you any of this, but this is my community as well. I have lived my entire life with an invisible disability that has affected me. It has prevented me from doing certain things that I've always wanted to do, and it will always prevent me from doing those things. The suggestion that I'm ableist or that I have some sort of malice towards the disabled community is not only an outright falsehood.
Point of
It's
order,
deeply
the
hurtful.
48-hour rule was actually a.
Senator
original
Lowe, this is
company.
not your turn to speak. You have spoken.
No, this is a point of order because that 48-hour rule was an original accommodation given.
This
to
is
the
not a
Student
point of order,
Disability
Senator
Center.
Lowe. You have
And if
already
he needs to
spoken,
dispute
Senator
this, he
Lowe.
may take it up with the Student Disability
Senator Lowe,
Center.
this is gallery input.
I'm glad that I have this opportunity to share my story. And I hope that everyone who came here under the pretense that I was this awful person has an understanding that that's not who I am. That's not where my heart is. And I want you to really look as to why this is happening right now. We've gone an entire year where there have been no issues of me discriminating against the disabled community. Please, please know who I am, know where my heart is. And I thank you all for being here. These are really important issues on campus. And I want you to speak your mind and tell us what we can do better as a campus community. Thank you all for being here.
Is there someone else from the gallery that wishes to speak at this time?
Point of personal, or point of information. I know that some folks on Zoom might want to be speaking, so if you do, please use the react, like your little hand out on Zoom, so that way we can get you.
Again, I want to ask, is there anyone in the gallery that wishes to speak at this time, whether remote or in person? Director Williamson.
The microphone got turned off. I just turned it on. We're figuring it out. Cool. Hello, everyone. My name is Charlie Williamson. I use they, them pronouns. I currently serve as the Director of Diversity and Inclusion in the executive branch of ASCSU. And thanks everyone for being here. I wanted to start this out by saying that I hope that any stories shared here on Zoom or anything like that, everybody in the room can take it as a learning experience and an opportunity to listen, to understand, rather than listening to respond. For me personally, I am not sharing my story up here because of anything that has happened in Senate or any references thereof, but because of the importance of the ADA to me specifically, as well as the barriers that I have faced across campus that I hope you all as student leaders can understand the importance of knowing that there are students that are facing ADA barriers across campus. So for me, I didn't understand the extent of what it would be like to live with a disability as I was an able-bodied person growing up. And I thought that of myself as a really big ally. I thought I was doing great, but I had a lot of learning to do. And it really wasn't until I started to lose my hearing and that I was diagnosed with epilepsy along other neurological difficulties that I truly understood the importance of accommodations and the way that I could sort of exist as a person in education, in educational institutions everywhere. I never really understood how people couldn't just go to class or couldn't just kind of buck up and deal with it, for lack of a better term, until it was me that couldn't function that way. And there are still things that I, as an able-bodied person, will never understand about my peers who are in wheelchairs or use mobility aids. And it's an important aspect of my allyship, I think, to know that there are things I will never understand and to keep learning. I recently, within the last week, was denied an accommodation by a professor because I missed a class due to a neurological episode. And there was, I have accommodations to the SDC, and the professor said, no, you should be able to control that. Like, the attendance policy is the attendance policy. And this is something that a lot of students with accommodations hear. And it's something that we have the Student Disability Center, luckily, to advocate for us, but they are one small organization in a campus of over 30,000 students. So I am here to ask ASCSU now and in the future to keep accessibility and the ADA and understanding Section 504 and these things at the front of your mind, because it's something that affects students who you may not understand it affects them. So that's what I'm here to say, and I hope that there are other stories shared. And to just finish with my ask that y'all be listening to understand rather than listening to respond, because this really is bigger than any of us and any previous trauma. Thanks.
Is there any member of the gallery, either remote or virtual, that wishes to speak? Chair Osman.
Hi, so I do live with an invisible disability. I have way too many, but one of the biggest ones is I have severe chronic pain, and that chronic pain makes it very hard for me to get on this campus, around this campus, especially when it's icy and snowy and cold, because that hurts. But primarily, I've seen a lot of problems both on this campus and how we phrase our framework around people with invisible disabilities. We have to make them absolutely outright say it in order for us to recognize their disability. And this is both from the abled and disabled community. When you have an invisible disability, it has to be outright stated that you have it, or people don't really register it. And I think going forward, we need to change our mindsets about it and realize that we don't know what goes on in everyone's life, and they don't owe us any information about that life. And while yes, people with visible disabilities, they have no way to like hide that, or people are just going to look at them, they see a wheelchair, they're going to assume why they're in that wheelchair. And that's not right either, because we don't know why someone's in a wheelchair. We don't know why someone's not in a wheelchair. We don't know why someone struggles to get across campus on a daily basis or struggles to do their classwork on a daily basis. But we shouldn't make assumptions about someone being able or disabled at all, unless they are willing to tell us their story about that, and unless they are willing to come out and speak about it. Because if we are making those assumptions, we are silencing voices of people who have invisible disabilities, and we are making it a lot harder for people with disabilities to exist. Thank you.
Thank you for your advocacy, Chair Osman, and all those have shared. Yes, can you please get your name?
Hi, I'm Sarah. I use they, them pronouns. So first off, I've kind of just made a list of things I've dealt with, but I first started kind of thinking about accommodation, even though I've been diagnosed with several disabilities for several years more than that. I started thinking about getting accommodations about a year ago, and it took me a year to get accommodations because they're so understaffed at SDC. So that's just one issue I want to bring up. But also, transportation has been a real issue for me. Like, we have great transportation within Fort Collins, but as someone like who has a lot of doctor's appointments, a lot of the medical centers are in Anschutz, in Aurora, and that's an hour away. So if you don't have a car, you don't have access to healthcare. And so it's really just an undue financial burden that disabled people have. I don't know the solution to it. I just wanted to bring that up. Also, I know they were talking about chronic pain, and I think that's something that really gets overlooked because I know several people, including myself, who have really bad chronic pain, and it really takes a toll on your energy and fatigue, and then it like becomes an issue with attendance with classes. And like personally, I'm a really great student and I tend to have excellent attendance, but there's times when I will miss a full week because I can't get out of bed. And so it's really frustrating when that's held against us. Also, like when this is kind of a flip I've noticed, but when you get to your 300 levels, at least in engineering, that's where they stop respecting accommodations. Before that, it was a bit better. And now that I've actually tried accommodating for myself, it becomes a more stern no, we will not respect accommodations. And so I think, just to put it simply, even though the SDC is there to advocate for folks, I think it can also be really tough just because there's almost like a fear of retaliation from teachers that they control your grades. And so it's a little complicated, but that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Sarah, correct. Is there anyone else in the gallery that wishes to speak at this time? Can we please get your name?
Hi. Okay. Hi, my name is Dylan Edwards. My pronouns are she, her, hers. And I would also just like to say that you really should consider how well the campus does and the school itself does in accommodation already. Blowing up and getting super negative about things isn't going to do anything. It's just going to make people not want to listen to us. I have chronic pain and I also have a couple other genetic disorders that cause those episodes to get a lot worse when they do happen. In fact, I had one Monday night that extended into the late morning of Tuesday, and my 300 level organic chemistry lab director, no questions asked, gave me all the data I needed to get my post lab done, and also offered for me to get those lab technique points back. I did not need a doctor's note. All I did was send a couple emails, and that was all they needed. So yeah, there's a lot to get done, but where I'm from, when I was crippled throughout middle school, I got up and down stairs on crutches. I get around the school with a 30-pound backpack and a violin holding my crutches still. There is so much that is done on this campus to make it better for students, and I think we should appreciate that. Blowing up isn't going to do anything. Thank you.
Dylan, correct? Is that your name? Thank you for your advocacy. We have one on Zoom, Marty.
My name is Marty. I use they, them pronouns. I'm a recent graduate of the engineering program with 2 engineering degrees, one in engineering science, one in mechanical engineering. And I say this because I wasn't diagnosed with a learning disability until I was about 4 years into my college career, of the 7 years that it took for me to get both of those degrees. And in the midst of this, I was also a part of the education program, and I also worked as a TA for Dr. Dan Baker for statics. He is one of 2 engineering professors throughout my 7-year career that I knew for a fact had no issues taking providing accommodations for their students. Even in my later years when I was in my degree, I had difficulty getting accommodations even after I had my diagnosis and had worked to get those accommodations. With that, like yes, there are people that do accommodate their students and do go above and beyond in doing so. And there is still a need to continue to grow and build so that we can all have our needs met, and so that we are not scared of attempting to get our needs met. That was one of my biggest barriers in getting accommodations, in seeking out accommodations, even in initially seeking out my diagnosis, because I knew how difficult it was to even try to get accommodations. So it seemed easier in my mind to just ignore it, to push through. But it took one of my education professors encouraging me that it was worth it, that people would work with me, even if it was hard, that my working with folks would eventually push people to work with others better. And that is the purpose of tonight, is to get us to learn from each other and build what is supposed to be accessible for everyone, because that accessibility is what makes us able to be who we are. One of the things that we learn in engineering is that diversity is key to problem solving. That includes disabled people, that includes able-bodied people, that includes people of every race, that includes people of every gender. So when we don't have this conversation, we are lacking in our ability to provide for others. So that's the purpose for tonight, is to come together and provide for others what we have seen lacking with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Marty, for sharing and for your advocacy. Is there any other member of the gallery that wishes to speak at this time? Josie?
Hi, my name is Josie Weiss. I use she, they pronouns, and well, I have yet to receive accommodations, but it's something I'm working on. And the longer I go on in life, the more I realize how hard it is having a learning disability. The time it takes an average person to complete a homework assignment, the double it takes me. And I know that's not just me, I know it's a lot of other people, and accommodations can be small, but they can be helpful, period. And hearing about a lack of funding in these things does not give me hope that I will continue to be successful in my school career. And I also fear that my accommodations will not be met based off of what I've heard from other people. So I'm just here to represent and to support everyone in need.
Thank you, Josie, for your advocacy and your work, Senator Levy.
Okay, hi. Hi, everyone. I'm Megan Levy. I use they, them pronouns. I'm a senator for Warner College Natural Resources. My major is restoration ecology and my minor is horticultural therapy. And I bring that up as well as I wasn't really going to talk tonight, but honestly, I kind of like the fact that we're having a space for this. I think that this is really needed, kind of like, I don't know, and I know emotions are spicy right now. It's a spicy Senate room tonight. But like, I really appreciate like this like floor space. I had to take, or many in our classes, natural resources are required to take a mountain campus class, which is one of CSU's most advertised things about the campus. I came here 1,000 miles from Wisconsin for the specific reason of having a certain natural resources education that CSU could provide me. And in my time, I have realized that the space is not accessible for people with mobility needs and aids. not really accessible at all, and I had to take it online. My online experience I have 3 invisible illnesses, and I was denied my accommodations for 2 weeks in a 4-week class. It was a whole 4-week class. It's 16-week course that you have to do in 4 weeks. And I had 2 of those weeks where I was not allowed my accommodations. So while coming from, again, Wisconsin, a place where disabilities are not really recognized, I love what CSU has. I love that there's like so many accommodations for so many different disabilities. I really do think that there is a need, and there is like to recognize and to make space for, and just like be in community, like bring like people with disabilities into your community, you know, like, and if y'all ever want to talk about like invisible illnesses or disabilities, like my minor deals with mobility and mental disabilities in creating spaces for everybody to enjoy nature. So if you guys ever want to talk about anything like that, let me know. If you want like to ask personal questions about invisible illnesses, let me know. But there is stuff that like I myself am fighting as a senator right now. I'm trying to make bills about that involve the intersectionality between the disabled folk, including myself, and natural resource majors and education through that. So there is definitely like some moments in CSU that need to be combed out. But I do echo what someone else said, like this is an amazing campus. And I know that we can do amazing things with this. I know we're all amazing people, even in this spicy room, you know, so I just wanted to throw that out there. So thank you. I had to drop a class this last week because my professor ignored my accommodations and I was unable to advocate for myself in that space. What's happening in ASCSU is a micro scale of everything that's happening to us across the country. Every day there are court cases that could potentially threaten our civil rights documents if the able-bodied people in power decided they would. A lot of you, Senate, have guaranteed civil rights, even with everything happening in the country, but your friends, your colleagues are not so lucky, and failing to provide simple and universally known accommodations here in ASCSU is the first start. I've worked with most of the people in this room for the last many years, and I use a wheelchair because of my disability. I'm ambulatory, which means that I can walk, but I really shouldn't. And I come here every single week to fight for the disabled students on this campus. And I spend so much of my time here fighting day in and day out on simple matters when I could and should be taking time to make sure I can make it to classes. I often get home in tears from this organization, not because I can't do the work, but because I'm spending every ounce of my ability to do this. Spoons for those of you in the community. As already said, I want to be fighting and doing amazing advocacy work on projects like those Senator Dietz is working on. That's the point of this organization. It's to fight for improving the lives of the disabled community, but we don't get to do that. We get to fight the line day in and day out, and that our leaders are spending their time ignoring our basic civil rights is appalling. So again, I want to thank this community for taking your spoons and showing out for the people around you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Senator Ainsley, for your continued advocacy and your work in this space. Is there anyone else in the gallery that wishes to speak on this time, either remote or virtual? Ali Owens.
Hello, my name is Allie Owens. My pronouns are they, them, and theirs. I appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight, and I thank everybody for showing up because this is so important. So I live with multiple disabilities. Some of them are visible and some are not. And I first want to point out that accommodations, even accessing them can be extremely taxing and stressful and difficult. There are, for people who've never gone through the accommodations process, in order to be granted accommodations, you have to do a lot of work. You have to show a slew of paperwork and documentation and all of this, proving, your conditions. And for some people, we know that not everybody has access to healthcare, right? Not everybody can just get a doctor's note saying this is what happens in my life, So even accessing accommodations can be really difficult in the first place. An example of this for me, so I have a condition called lipedema, which causes enlargement of the lower body, hips and buttocks and thighs and all of that. And so my lower body is disproportionately larger than my upper body. And this causes trouble sitting in chairs. I can't fit in most standard sized chairs. And before I had documentation to prove that, I sought accommodations from the SDC saying, can I please get a chair that I can sit in my classes? And the question was, well, is there a medical reason why, or are you just fat, right? And for me, yeah, there is a medical reason, but there are also a lot of people who are just fat, and that's okay. And those people deserve to sit as well, So it took a while to even be able to comfortably sit in my classes, Now as a wheelchair user, I find that I tend to be treated with more respect as it pertains to disabilities, because people can actually see that my disability is quote unquote valid, right? Because I have the wheelchair. But even people without visible disabilities or mobility aids or anything like that absolutely deserve the respect that accommodations grant. And that is what it is about. It's about respect. If anyone in here has never had to ask a professor to use an accommodation, that is also really stressful in a lot of situations. And many people have shared that professors are denying accommodations. Just a couple of weeks ago, I had a professor tell me, when I said, I need to use this accommodation, tell me that, well, I'd prefer if you didn't. And obviously he knows I'm going to use it because but so I don't know, there's just this attitude that it's inconvenient and we're burdens for doing this. And that message is everywhere in our society. Disabled people hear this all the time, whether it's explicitly or implicitly, that we are inconvenient, we are burdens. And that absolutely happens here at CSU. Is there ableism in Senate and in the broader CSU community? Unequivocally, absolutely yes, because we live in a deeply ableist society, which adheres to systems and structures that are deeply ableist. So we can't escape it. So pretending as though there is no ableism at CSU or in the specific areas at CSU is just willful ignorance at this point. So we need to center marginalized people and communities in spaces, especially in spaces where decisions are made, like in Senate, because that makes everything better for everyone. So, yeah, I think that's pretty much everything I have. I just wanted to share that. And I really appreciate the work that everybody's done to be here tonight and to share their stories. Thank you.
Thank you, Allie, for sharing and your continued advocacy. Is there anyone else in the gallery or in the space that wishes to speak at this time? Yes, Senator Melchior.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kevin Melchior. I'm a senator for Adult Veteran Services. And in my time outside the space, I also work as a peer advisor there. Every day in that space, in Adult Veteran Services, there's conversations around disability. A lot of people don't necessarily identify as disabled, but just because you're able-bodied doesn't mean you can't show up and offer support. Encourage people to seek their accommodations. Heck, even inform people that there's opportunities to get accommodations. So many adult learners, student parents, student veterans don't know about the SDC until they come into our space and talk to us. So just because you're able-bodied doesn't mean that you cannot show up in support and advocate and be an ally.
Thank you, Senator Melchior, for your continued advocacy and your work in this space. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak at this time? Chair Trout. Yeah.
We're working on it.
Hi all, for those who don't know me, my name is Sammy Trout. I go by he, him, his series pronouns, and I'm chair of University Affairs Committee. Disability advocacy is something that I have very recently dipped my toes into. And it's something I've become incredibly passionate over. I think it is something that there's a lot of intersectionality with it. And that has been one of the joys in experiencing it. Thanks to wanting to know more, simply wanting to know more, I have gotten to meet incredible advocates. I've got to meet Representative David Ortiz, who is the first wheelchair user in the House General Assembly. I've gotten to make connections with folks at the Colorado Cross Disability Coalition, and really get to know what disability advocates are doing at higher levels of education. I think it's also really important for folks who maybe don't understand the importance of accommodations. There will be at one point where our minds start to fail and our bodies will start to break down. In one way, shape, or form, we will all be needing accommodations. And I think that's really important for a lot of able folks to understand. And so if that's a field that you are simply interested in joining into, there's a lot of incredible advocates in this space who would love to welcome you with open arms. This is a lot more emotional than I thought it was going to be. Holy heck. But anyway, I appreciate y'all's ears.
Chair Trout, for your advocacy and your work in this space. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak at this time? Can we please, one of you at a time, and can we get your name correct?
Is it okay if we split our time?
It would be 5 minutes each. Okay, yeah, we'll just give you the 5 minutes to get it.
It's not gonna.
You do need to use the mic for accessibility. Sometimes it doesn't work, but there's members behind you that might be able to help.
Okay. So my name's Mason. This is Jay. We are both disabled students at CSU. We're both freshmen. And I understand it's really hard to have empathy and like feel connection to groups of people that you aren't a part of. I was disabled 5 years ago. Today I am. So I wasn't disabled 5 years ago.
Sorry for the interruption.
And now I am a disabled chronically ill person. And I think the unique thing about the disabled community is anybody can become disabled at any point. I got sick 4 years ago and now I'm disabled and it affects my day-to-day life constantly. And I think when making policies or talking about the disabled community, you need to think about it from the standpoint of this could be you at any given point. You could have an accident tomorrow and become part of this community. So when you're thinking about policies and how it's going to affect disabled people, think about how it's going to affect your friends, your family, or yourself, because it's not this other group that, oh, we're just observing them. It could be you, and it could be anybody that you know, any moment. So that's what you should think of when you're thinking of accommodations.
And just adding on to that, disabled people are the largest marginalized group in the United States.
Could I get you to introduce yourself?
Yes, I'm Jay Thomas. Yes, disabled people are the largest marginalized group in the United States. Up to 1 in 4 Americans are living with a disability. However, a lot of those might be chronic illnesses or invisible disabilities that aren't outwardly apparent. So a lot more people are disabled than able-bodied people probably would assume. And adding off of what Mason said, of anyone can become disabled at any time. And if you were to become disabled, let's say tomorrow, you would probably find that the world is a lot less accessible than you would think it is. And CSU, I agree with everyone who said, they do a lot for disabled students, and we're not saying that they don't, but the fact remains that the world is a lot less accessible than a lot of people think it is. And I think someone brought this up a little bit, but disabled people very frequently are treated like we are an inconvenience and like we are an afterthought. And that should not be the case. And that is a barrier when trying to access accommodations, because if everyone around you is giving you the message that this is stupid, you should be able to persevere through this, that other people don't need this,
yeah, they don't need it because they're not disabled. And anyone who needs accommodations should be able to access them without having to fight and beg for them.
Thank you, Senator Jay, for sharing your stories. Senator Kelly.
Hi, my name is Associate Senator Kelly. I represent the back office and I'm a first year here at CSU. First, I want to thank everybody for coming and telling their stories. And I also have dealt with people with disabilities in my life. My mom is one of them. But what I'm here to say today is pertaining to issues that have gone through Senate for a while, and I just would like to speak on it because it's been affecting certain specifically my SDPS office in general, and I would like for it not to anymore. So yeah. Here today, we made a commitment to gather at 6:30 every Wednesday to try and make CSU a better place for all students to thrive. Here in these chambers, we as students represent our colleges and STVS offices to better the experience for incoming and current students. When I first joined Senate, I was excited to be able to make a change and impact here at CSU. But the longer I've been in this place, I've come to realize that that might not be the goal for everyone here. Before Christmas break, there were people to put blame on for ongoing issues of not getting along with other colleagues. We came back and we had 2 or 3 good sessions where we all were able to come together and pass a solution for the good of students without thinking of ourselves. Recently, that has shifted. Even after removing people that were deemed hostile for certain people in the space, the hostility still remains. As an associate senator for BAC, I come here to make sure that what's being passed is in the best interest of Black and African American students of CSU. We as the 52nd Senate has an obligation to help those we represent throughout colleges and offices. After the last session, it was seen some senators no longer understand this. You are impeding others' ability to help those who truly need it, while also using your white tears and voice to overpower those who truly need to be heard. When instead you should be letting those who are never heard have a chance to let their voice free. When hearing me say this, I want you to take in consideration, is what you're bringing up bigger than racism, colorism, disabilities, sexual harassment, mental health, bias, or any other type of change that we as a Senate are trying to change? This must stop and should no longer be acceptable, even though I know it won't. Instead of using your powerful white voice to bash others for things that do not matter, use it to help change for everyone here and out there.
Thank you, Senator Kelly, Associate Kelly, for your continued advocacy and work in this space. Is there anyone else remote or in person that wishes to speak at this time? Vice President Sandoval.
I hope y'all don't mind I brought my emotional support person because I do not do well in front of crowds. I have been part of this organization for 2 years now, and I started off as a senator. We had the same exact issues last year, 365 days ago. I'm not talking about just Senate, I'm talking about CSU as a whole. I became vice president and we still have these issues. Hell, we have these issues in cabinet. It's not just Senate, it's all over ASCSU. It's all over CSU as a whole. I have invisible disabilities and sometimes visible, depending on if my back decides to act up or not. I'm also fighting with a professor who's refusing to let me use my accommodations. I come from a family of disabled people, and my own mother, who works for the city and county of Denver, is fighting with her boss and working with lawyers because of her disability discrimination. We are better than that. We are better than this. I want to thank every single person here who has showed up one form or another, who has shared your story. But it breaks my heart that, as Rory said, it is 2023 and we are asking for the bare minimum. I have stood back and watched, and I haven't said anything because I didn't know what to say. And it sucks when you don't want to ask for help because you have this mentality that someone else deserves it more than you do. I'm here to tell you, if y'all are looking for a sign, you want someone to tell you, you have an invisible disability, a visible disability, you're needing help, you're needing accommodation, you feel like you could do better with accommodations, you deserve it as much as anybody. You deserve it. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice President Sandoval, for your advocacy and your continued work in this space. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak at this time, either remote or Senator Clementi? Yes.
Hello, I'm Enoch Menanti. I'm an associate senator of Pride. Originally, I wasn't actually going to speak. I was going to be silent support. But after all the stories I heard, and especially from the bravery from Vice President Elijah, I feel like this is going beyond the fly. I'm going beyond with you on that. So ASCSU has when I first entered ASCSU, my inauguration was wild. There was definitely a lot of arguing and whatnot. And then I came back and it was definitely a lot more productive. And I saw how much good this organization could provide for the greater students of Colorado State University. And I was really proud of that. But as sessions have continued, I've definitely seen that sort of decline. We're arguing with each other, constantly fighting with each other. I feel like we let our egos get the better of us. And I know that doesn't benefit the students here. I say that because I know for a fact that two of my siblings look up to me and they want to attend this university. And I know that if this is how this organization is going to run, it's not going to help them. And this organization is meant to help them. I want them to feel support. I want them to feel like that this university actually acknowledges their existences, for all of their struggles and everything that they go through. And if I can at least set the groundwork at the bare minimum for this organization to start doing that, I will gladly do whatever is required, whatever is taken. You can ask of me any hour, and I really hope that my fellow colleagues would do the same. And with that, I yield.
I'd like to make a quick motion by recommendation of Senator Lowe to move Bill 5220, CSU's temporarily disabled student transportation program funding directly after the gallery input. The purpose of this motion is to give the community and the individuals who have come out today who seem to be very interested in this cause a chance to listen to what is going on.
Second. Fantastic. We'll beat you to it. All those in favor say aye. All those against say nay. Sweet. Will the parliamentarian please reflect that change? Can you say it one more time just to make sure I have it right?
The title of the bill?
Oh
yeah, so right after gallery input.
Okay, sweet. Thank you. The parliamentarian has reflected that change. Now that motion has been concluded, is there any other member of the? Okay. Yeah. Oh. Can I get you to introduce yourself as well?
Yes.
Oh, it takes, oh, there we go. I was overzealous. Hey, all, my name's McAllister Johnson. I'm a senator for College of Health and Human Sciences. I don't often talk in the space, and when I do, it's normally like, guys, we need to do better. I am dyslexic. It's been my whole life, and I've got a lot of angst around it. Probably need to go to therapy or whatever. Is it too close? Better? Better? Yeah, closer. Here. All right. Sorry, y'all. And I just want to say that I'm disappointed in Senate last session. We invited somebody into the space from the College in Health and Human Sciences, and we vouched for y'all, and we were like, Senate's a great space and it's a safe space for everybody. And it did not feel that way. And it was, all of us were a part of that. And so I just wanted us to be, just recenter ourselves on like the idea of respect. And that goes both ways. That goes both for people advocating and for people that are listening to people that are advocating. I fully understand, like, when I'm advocating for something or when somebody, like, I have a self-perceived thing where they're like, oh, they're not listening to me, they're not seeing me. I take it really personally and I can't get out of that like space. So I want those of us that like, that do, that like stuff like that happens. I want us all to like take a step back and realize it's not about us. They're not doing something, like they're not saying that because they are personally attacking us. And so we need to take a step back and take our emotions a little bit out of that. And your emotions are completely valid, but just taking a step back and like thinking about it critically, is it something that I feel like Senate could use a little bit more of, and just recentering ourselves on respect and just focusing on respect. And that's all I really had to say. Thank you for listening. It was sort of off the cuff. Appreciate y'all. Yeah, I yield. Thank you, Senator Johnson, for your continued advocacy and work in this space. Associate Kimberly.
There we go. So I definitely was not planning on speaking tonight. But just after hearing everybody's testimonies tonight, I felt obligated to come up and do so. Last week, we had a member from the Center for Public Deliberation come up and talk. And I think what all of us need to recognize in this space is not only us, what's a guess of how many people are in here?
55 senators and associates.
So 55 senators and associates. It's not only us that walks onto this campus every day, or that comes onto this campus every day. Thousands of students, thousands of people that come from different lives, different abilities, different things. And we need to recognize that and respect that. And so I guess my only thing why I came up here is I challenge the Senate. I've only been in the Senate for 5 months. I graduate in May. There's not much work that I can do left in here. I regret not joining sooner, but I challenge the Senate genuinely, every single person in here, to not only listen to each other, but to work together and to do things that support our students, no matter what you believe, no matter whether you come from SDPS or a college council, no matter your identities, no matter what, we need to recognize as a Senate that we all come from different walks of life, and we need to join together, and we need to use these last 5-6 weeks, whatever that we have left in the semester, and make a difference. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Kimberly, Associate Kimberly, for your continued advocacy and work in this space. Is there any other member of the gallery that wishes to speak at this time, remote or virtual? Officer Bukhari.
Howdy, y'all.
Hello. Howdy, how's everyone doing tonight? I'm Faraz. I serve as a recruitment and retention officer here at ASCSU, and part of my role is getting folks into this space. And as you might be familiar with, that can be kind of hard. I'm uncomfortable in this space a lot of times. I'm sure many of you are as well. But you kind of have to learn to live with the discomfort to come to a solution. I also serve as a resident assistant in Durward Hall, one of the towers on campus. Woo! Maybe, anyway, in Durward. And when it comes to disabilities, that is a big contention in our building. We have 12 stories and our elevators break a lot of the time. And it's kind of hard when you want to elevate students when they can't be elevated by their own building. But it just goes to show like there are many issues on campus that affect students. My role here right now is to talk about framing. This space, we are all representatives of someone, something, some identity, some story that we come here to represent every day, or not every day, I guess every day on campus, but every Wednesday here at CSU, even the folks in the gallery. Y'all represent different offices, different committees, different stories, different states, countries where you're born. But coming to an understanding that we're all people at the end of the day is kind of a hard distinction to make with a lot of folks when you get very heated about issues. So I ask, continue moving forward in the rest of the session, if we could also keep things germane. I know that's kind of a contentious word to use, but keep things, how do you say this? Civil. Yeah, who said that? Who said that? Civil. Pat on the back to you, Grant. And just put yourself in the shoes of another person. And keep in mind your tone, the way you say things can affect people and the decisions they make moving forward. I also ask that after this session, you all take care of yourselves tonight and stay warm. There's a tornado warning in the Mideast. Yeah, I know. But thank you all for coming here tonight, and I hope you have a great time.
Is there any other member of the gallery, remote or virtual, that wishes to speak at this time? Director Welch.
Wait, yeah, now it's on. Fantastic. Hello, everyone. I'm Evan Most, and first I want to thank everyone for talking about this. And so, as we're talking about disability, I feel like bringing up and pointing that. Unfortunately, almost everyone in this Senate has managed so for my disability gets extremely difficult. I am someone who has hard of hearing. I can barely hear my left ear. It's extremely difficult. So if someone does speak in a microphone, if they interrupt, or if their voice is muffled, I cannot hear what they're saying. The person sitting next to me while you all are talking, they said something to me. I have absolutely no idea what it was. Because I unfortunately can't hear turn around me when someone's talking. Which is okay. I'm okay with that. I'm not mad at you today at all. I'm just saying this as a, unfortunately, a lot of people here have disabilities and they're very difficult. And like it makes just our lives are a little more difficult. However, when you all do things that make it so I can't hear and I have to like either watch the Zoom see as absent or someone else, I don't get mad at you at all because I understand that for you all, you can hear perfectly. Like my own voice, you can probably hear way different than I can. And I get that. So I'm never gonna be mad at you if you ever do make it so it's hard from here, because you are not my students. You don't understand that. So whenever you do that, I won't be mad at you. However, I would hope that you now know, like, please don't, when someone else is speaking, please don't interrupt them. I understand you'll have extremely important stuff to say, but please wait until like they're at the end of the sentence. Then you can interrupt them. I'm okay with that. The same with if you want to talk to your friend or anyone else to sit next to you, please do that extremely quietly. Because if you're kind of close to where I am and someone's not talking quietly next to you, I unfortunately can't hear them. So basically, this as we talk about ways to be more accessible to everyone, I just want to point out another way to accessible to another person, this group of people. However, I all believe, like everyone else, you've done a great job. I feel very welcome in here. So like you all doing great. However, this was another way where you all can improve with accessibility. So thank you.
We have one member on Zoom. I don't want to butcher your name, so I'm going to let you introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Caius. I use he, him, his pronouns. I feel like I represent a fear of a lot of college students. I had to drop out when I was nearly done with my degree. The reason for that was because I am multiply disabled. I have visible and invisible disabilities, some from birth and some that I've developed over the course of my life. I'm a wheelchair user, I'm blind, I'm hard of hearing, I have chronic pain, etc. I had to leave university because of a complete unwillingness to provide accommodations that are medically necessary. This is not an issue that should be taken lightly. It is an issue that deeply affects people's lives. I had, and I still do have, a future, but the barriers placed in my way and in the ways of all disabled people in this country and every single other country, it's unacceptable. I understand that we've made a lot of progress, but there is a very, very far way to go. It is essential that we recognize that all of us, whether we are disabled or abled, possess the ability to be ableist and are, because we exist in an extremely ableist society. I just really want to emphasize the importance of not only meeting the bare minimum, but exceeding it. You cannot exist as an institution that prides itself on diversity and inclusion without exceeding the bare minimum. I would hope that it is important to students and staff to keep students and staff at your schools. I come from a long line of educators. Most of my family is disabled, and many people in my family, educators, whether as educators or as students, have had extreme difficulty in receiving their accommodations and succeeding. I think it is vital to listen to those that loudly advocate, because not all of us can. And those who put in the effort and put aside their fear to speak about extremely personal issues that they and those in their community are facing need to be heard, need to be respected, need to be listened to. Thank you.
Thank you for your continued advocacy and your work in this space. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak at this time? You can go first. Can we get your name, please?
Hi, I'm Alex Pentlicky. I'm a first-year music education major here at CSU. I wasn't planning on speaking today, but coming from the position of education, I feel like it's important to remember that this is an academic institution. And in my time here in my first year and spending time around a lot of people, it's felt like a lot of people don't really think about that this is an academic and educational institution. In our degree program for music education, diversity, equity, and inclusion is a huge focus. You know, I've had the privilege to attend many workshops at conferences, and we've had talks given in classes about it. And I think that when we step into a space like this, whether it's this Senate chamber or anywhere on campus, and the needs of our fellow students aren't being met, I think those instances need to be met with great perseverance and great precision and a strong attitude to improve the space around us. You know, as an educator, my goal is to, well, as a music educator, my goal is to help students grow as themselves and grow as characters. You know, that's where the arts are centered. And making adjustments in the classroom for students experiencing these aspects of their lives these are prerequisites to learning. When you haven't made accommodations, or when accommodations aren't being made for students, it's what are we doing here? You know, when your classmates and your colleagues, their accommodations aren't being met, they're here for the same purpose that we are. And when education is hindered, like, it's so damaging to society, and it's so damaging to the relationships with those around us. And I don't know, I think it's important to me that the people in this room and the people on this campus listen to the words that the people around them share. You know, some share them angrily, but I think it's important to think about why they're angry and to dive into their words and dissect them and think about the why, and think about what's going to come after that. What do you want to do? What do you want to do to get better? And what effect do you want to have on the world around you? Yeah.
Thank you for your advocacy and your continued work in this space. Senator Scott Perez, Associate Scott Perez. Senator Scott Perez. Associate Scott Perez.
I've only been in this space for a little while, but I just wanted to say that in the little while I've been in this space, I'm going to be quite frank. I feel like it's been disappointing. A lot of that comes from the almost blood sport dramas that happen in here. In fact, when I talk to someone about ASCSU, the first thing is always like, "Oh, you mean like the call out CSU thing? It's 50 things." I've never heard someone say to me, "Oh yeah, the RAM rifle." But that has never happened once. And I feel like I've only been here like a couple of weeks, but I feel like that's probably going to remain a fact. Although I feel like today is different. I feel like the bill that most certainly going to be passed today is what we should be doing more. I want that to start eating the blood sport, dramas. And I feel like it is a step in the right direction. The stories we've heard today have been super impactful, not only for I feel like the rest of us, but for myself. It's really opened a new perspective for me. I hope that we can, improve the situations with this bill. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Associate Scott Perez, for your advocacy and your continued work in this space. Is there anyone else in the gallery that wishes to speak at this time? Yes. I'm going to let Faraz chair this. I'm going to let Faraz chair this. Just let me have a chance at some point.
Is there a second? Okay, all in favor of having Faraz chair? Okay, all against? Any abstentions? All right, the ayes have it.
Reminder to.
You have 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I know you're happy to hear that. Hi, y'all. My name is Kimberly Rachel Carraceo de Gracia Cruz Perez, and I am your speaker pro tempore in this case. I am a first-generation Afro-Latina, and I have also come to share with you about my experience with disability, and among other things that happened in this space. My parents came here in 1999. And my dad joined the U.S. military, where he then sustained combat-related injuries in Iraq in 2016.
I took care of my father for the following year that happened. He had to have a spinal fusion, and seeing the man that I grew to love, my dad, in such a position was heartbreaking. And I never thought that I would have an experience with disability in my life. But here I am, that's what happened. My uncle also served in the United States military. He was a Green Beret, who also sustained combat-related injuries that aren't always physical. A lot of them are invisible for our veterans. And it saddens me to see members in this space not acknowledge those from people that also have those disabilities. Whatever the reason is, a disability is a disability. Whatever the cause, a disability is a disability. And I've spoken with Senator Lowe on this about people have the willingness to learn. However, education isn't always accessible, right? One of those being, I know that people in this space have felt like DEI has been shoved down your throat and, oh, I don't want to do this. I don't like this if these are the people that are spearheading it, but these are the people that are spearheading it, right? And their points are valid. Maybe the execution wasn't what you wanted, but they're speaking the truth. And I know that everyone in this space can be better on their execution, whether that be Speaker DeSalvo, that be myself, that be Officer Bukhari, Senator Athey, Senator Lowe. I'm not saying these things to call you out. That's never my intention, because I do respect you as my peers. But we can do better in this space. I don't have to justify that I have a father with a disability. I don't have to justify that I have these experiences in life for you to understand that I am an advocate as well. Thank you.
Thank you, officer, for your support and your advocacy and continued support in this space. Please go ahead. You have 5 minutes. Yes, Ben.
Appreciate it. Hey, y'all. I'm Benson Rossler. I use the he, him as pronouns. I was in this space for, I'd say, about 2 years. I was also in the executive branch for about 1 year. Now I'm in master's school, still here at CSU, go Rams. I realized I had a quick opportunity for you all. As we're talking about this, I realized that the university does the absolute bare minimum when it comes to ADA accessibility, when it comes to all of the academic buildings that we have, all of the buildings we have practically. I'm the vice chair of the University Facility Fee Advisory Board, and I encourage anyone interested in improving ADA accessibility to join and become a member of our board. We meet Thursday nights from 5 to 7 p.m. and ADA accessibility is 90% of what we fund using student fees. All of the ADA accessible improvements that have been made in most campus buildings, in most academic buildings, have been from us, the student fees, not from the university. It's been from our board. That's everything we do practically. And it's everything that we advocate for because it's necessary. And I personally don't know how to go beyond just the ADA limits. I don't know how to advocate for that in that space alone. And I have great peers in that space too that also want to do the same. We're also a small group. We are probably about half capacity of what we should be. And so I really do ask any and all of you to find peers, to find folks that would be interested in joining our board and really advocating for ADA accessibility on this campus, both using student fees and also telling the university that they need to start putting their money into this too. 5 to 7 p.m. on Thursdays, reach out to me. You can email me, benson.rossler@collegestate.edu. I can hook you up with with our board, everything we do, and tell you a little bit more about it. You also get free food if you attend in person. We have virtual option as well. You can attend virtually the entire year. Not a problem at all. I just wanted to share that. Thank you all.
Thank you for the shameless plug. And also thank you for your continued advocacy and work in this space. With 45 minutes remaining, is there anyone else that wishes to speak at this time?
Hello. Hello. Hi. For those you don't know me, I am Ayla. You wondering why I sit at the front? I'm the clerk. And as the clerk, I play an incredibly passive role in this space. I come to these meetings every single day and I write down what you all say and what you do and things that are passed. I am incredibly disappointed in the events I see every single week I come to this space. Mostly because I see a need for advocacy in almost every single corner of this campus. That's obvious from the voices we've heard today. There shouldn't be a need for this many people to come to light a fire under guys' butts to do something. I'm sorry, but you guys spend so many hours arguing amongst yourselves when the real need is to focus outside of yourselves. I wish you all could see the need for change. As my role as a clerk, people often ask, what do you do? A lot of what I do is I advocate for you guys outside of the space. When I say I work for ASCSU, I'm met with contention. Why do you do that? I didn't know this was a job, but here I am. And the thing is that I am constantly reminding people, ASCSU is not just a problematic institution. We have the ability to change things, but we don't.
Thanks, Queen. Thank you for your continued advocacy and writing down literally everything we do. If you've ever seen, she does it. So thank you. Can we, she's a. Is there any other member of the gallery, remote or in person, that wishes to speak at this time? I will yield back chairship to Speaker DeSalvo.
Thank you, everyone, for being here and for listening to the stories that have been shared tonight. All of our stories are important and they deserve to be heard. So thank you for listening. We'll now move on to the Bill 5220, CSU Temporarily Disabled Students Transportation Program. Senator Deeds.
Ross, could you grab a chair from somewhere for
Information when we're designing to the top of the agenda.
there was a motion earlier.
Yeah.
What am I doing with the chair? Just for her to hang out. Yeah. Everybody, you may use this mic with a.
Feel free to use this mic.
I'll do it. I'll use my hands more. Thanks for really.
Hey, no, that wasn't.
Check there. All righty, let's get this rocking and rolling. Well, good evening, everybody, and happy election day. If I haven't had the privilege of meeting you yet, my name is Braxton Dietz. I'm senator for College of Liberal Arts. Shout out over here. So if you can go ahead and pull up that PowerPoint. Sure. So Bill 5220 is a bill funding a program I've been working on in coordination with the Office of Off-Campus Life here at CSU. Right. So before reading the bill and going into the intricacies of that, I'm going to go into the intricacies of the program that it's funding. Just as a disclaimer, you may have read the bill will be allocating about $12,000 towards this program. So with that, we'll launch right into it. You can go ahead to the next slide. So the goal of this program is to equip temporarily disabled students on our campus in navigating our campus to better their educational, mental, social, and physical well-being while temporarily disabled. As a disclaimer, this program is being brought to light by myself, not by Lindsay or anybody at Off-Campus Life. They're simply helping it come to fruition. Lindsay wanted me to add that in. She's the director of Off-Campus Life. Just so you know, it's me asking for money and not her. So the issues that we're faced with here with this program is one is the infrastructure. Right now, we have no real viable infrastructure for temporarily disabled students on our campus. The second is funding, and that's what we're going to be addressing tonight. This program will take a large sum of funding every year to operate. And the last is coordination. Who's going to be the person, the entity running this program? So the solutions to all that, the first step, which we've passed, me and Lindsay have been working to create a plan with this program that we will be implementing once this funding is secured. The step two, which is the step that we're in right now in this meeting, is to secure the funding and the approval. Now, the approval will come after the funding or kind of as the funding is being secured. And then finally is to implement the program, and that will be again, Director Mason and I. Yeah, so step one, as I said, so this program will be an addition to Ramride. Students will be able to access the program from 8:30 to 4 p.m. every day that school is in session. Now, the reason that we decided those numbers, I can go into later, but they are when the bulk of students have classes. So students will be able to access the program through a code issued by Off-Campus Life or the SDC. And this will be a door-to-door service. So students will be able to select their drop-off location and their pickup location. So right from the door of their dorm, their transportation hub, or their parking lot to the door of their classes. The golf carts will be rented from the CSU motor pool, which is running about $20 a day. Some of these golf carts are single row, some of them are double row. We're going to try to get the double row so we can fit as many people, as many students as possible. And then PTS, I will try to negotiate a bit of a settlement there, but we'll see where that goes. The staffing and hiring. So one part-time driver will be hired by the Office of Off-Campus Life, and then another student coordinator will also be hired under a stipend job. Now, all this will be handled by the Office of Off-Campus Life, Director Mason and the assistant director there, which is really good for all of you because none of the stakeholders have to deal with any of it. Like I mentioned, this will be in addition to Ramride. Operations will be 8:30 to 4 o'clock p.m. And will be accessed through an OCL student issued code. Now, the reason that we decided on these hours, like I said, the bulk of students have their classes during this time. Additionally, if we expanded the hours, we would have to add another driver or classify them as a state classified employee. Currently, the driver will be classified as part-time classified employee. There's part-time and state classified employee. Part-time runs about a 31.2 fringe rate, and state is up in the 50%. So we don't want to do that because you guys will have to pay, you all will have to pay more money. Nobody wants that. The student application, students will be able to apply either through the OCL or the SDC. We're still in negotiations with that. Students will be able to apply I want to make this application process as lenient as possible. So, you know, a doctor's note, proof of insurance, personal testament of injury. You know, if you go in there on crutches and you say, I obviously have a broken leg, we're going to give this program to you. And you can see a few other options listed there. If they're accepted, they'll be issued a code. If they're denied, they'll be issued a reason why. You know, I think I covered this pretty well. It'll be operated by, the daily operations will be consumed by the Office of Off-Campus Life. Yeah, so step two. So this is our current step. And from here, you'll see the PowerPoint become a little bit more tentative because, like I said, this is the current step that we're in. Still trying to secure this funding, still trying to secure this approval. So some of the expenses are laid out here. And if you go to the next slide, we have the big number. Nobody likes the big number, but we're going to break it down today. So if you'll go to the next slide, this spreadsheet breaks down a little bit of the big scary number. So, so if you see anything in gray is what the Senate Budgetary Committee has agreed to pay. So like I mentioned, y'all will be paying about $12,000 with this bill, which will cover the golf cart rental every day The school is in session plus an additional 2 training days on each end of the semester. The driver equipment, the marketing, and the 10% safety buffer. Now I'm going to pause there because the big number and money always has some questions that come up. And if that's okay with you, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to see if there are any pressing questions only relating to funding right now.
Yeah, have at it. Chair Trout.
Yes.
So I'm sure you're gonna tell us, but where would the rest of the funding come from?
Yeah, so if you'll go back about 2 slides. One more, sorry. Yeah, so these are some of the stakeholders right here. We have the SEC, we have off-campus life, at FAB. A lot of these people and organizations will be able to give us some funding, and I'm still in negotiations with that as well. Any other questions? But yeah, I know that's your job.
Senator Leahy.
Thank you. Just curious, is there like, so you're renting the golf cart from CSU? Like, is there like ever like a possibility that like one could just be bought with that money? Like, is there like a chance that that's cheaper? Like,
yeah,
kind of curious like about that. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for that question. Yes, surface level, the buying a golf cart in the long run would be cheaper. However, I had some meetings with some people down at Texas A&M University, UTD, and Colorado Boulder, who run a similar program and own golf carts like this. And they say they run into all sorts of problems, vandalism, stealing, they have to find somewhere to park it. If we buy a golf cart, we also have to buy the equipment to charge it and find somewhere where we can charge it. It presents a lot of complications, and I would be open to it later on down the road once we expand the program, but for right now, we'll keep it there. Thank you for your question. Anybody else? All righty, seeing none. Oh, yep. I'm so sorry. I'm taking Nick's job right now.
Associate Kelly.
For the 23 hours a day for the person that's being hired, they're being hired through OCL, right?
Yeah.
Are these gonna be students or are these gonna be people that are off campus?
Yeah, so the driver will be off campus because of those hours, most likely. We're going to hire from anybody who will be willing to take an interview because 8:30 to 4 is every day that school's in session. It's really hard for a student to work. But the student supervisor will be a student through OCL. Any other questions before we move on?
Senator Lackey.
Do you plan to run this over summer or breaks or just during the fall and spring semester?
No, so this will be just during the fall and spring semester right now. Again, a lot of this is open to expansion. Once this program really gets its feet out from under it and starts running a little bit, the summer might be something that we look at. But for right now, just fall and spring. Anything else before we move on?
Senator Reed.
What about for that person driving the car, if they're like sick, what are you gonna do?
Yeah, great question. So, like I said, this is a pretty pilot program. So if they're sick, we'll give anybody, depending on the ride, plenty of notice as much as we can. But unfortunately, since we're only hiring one driver, we really can't afford to have a backup driver just in our back pocket, spending money on that at the moment. So for the time being, that's how that would work. But again, in the future, I would love to open it up. And if I could request, love the question so far, if I could request that we keep it strictly to the numbers right now, we'll cover the operation of the program in the following slides. Any other questions relating to strictly the funding numbers? Perfect, chugging right along. Yeah, so funding and approval, this slide is a bit outdated because we are in some negotiations with other entities, including ASCSU Executive and the SDC. So you can kind of see right here, we have a little bit of funding map and y'all's $12,000 kicking us off right there. The program will be approved after the funding is secured, or kind of as it's being secured, and that'll be approved by the university admin, risk management, and also likely parking and transportation services. Because like I said, this will be a door-to-door service, so we will be using large, traditionally sidewalk areas such as the plaza as thoroughfares if needed. Now we'll try to avoid some of that. So the final step is implementation. Now this is pretty easy and really doesn't, pertain to you all as much, aside from you are funding this program. If you can go ahead and the next slide. Like I mentioned, this will be an addition to Ramride. This addition will incur no additional costs, and students will access that through an OCL issued code. The hiring and screening will be done by the Office of Off-Campus Life, and both positions, the driver and the student coordinator, will go through the standard OCL training 1 week before each semester. For the training, both, yep, I just talked about that. Look at me getting ahead of myself. Marketing will include some of these things you can see listed up here. One thing I really wanted to capitalize on is that this program will be marketed to all the local emergency rooms, doctor's office, and the health network. We'll likely be handing them out flyers, maybe advertising on some of their TV screens, saying, if you see a patient who'd be comfortable, sharing with you that they need this program, go ahead and hand them one of these. And so that marketing budget will be $1,000 a year, also covered by this bill. So here's the timeline, and this is a very important piece of this project. So the first year will be a soft launch. This first bit will have a monthly meetings with the stakeholders to make sure that this program isn't eating money, that we're actually helping students. After that, we'll go into what I like to call full launch. It will be fully operational in the first year, but we'll scale back those stakeholder meetings, and then we'll assess it at the end of the year. Now, this portion is very important for the funding. For this bill, we are allocating $12,000 a year, repeating every year for 4 years. Now, to explain the technicalities behind that, Senate is not technically allowed to allocate reoccurring funds through a singular bill. However, we're going to write an MOU, a memorandum of understanding, that exemplifies that this bill will be revamped at the beginning of each year, and then the funding will be allocated for the following year at the end of each year. If that makes sense. So, for example, this year we'll be allocating funding for the following school year, and then after that, the bill will be brought back onto the floor, voted on again, and continue on per the memorandum of understanding, and we'll pull that up later as well. Additionally, with this first year stakeholder meetings, in the bill, I have written that you all will elect a representative to represent the Senate and the Senate Budgetary Fund, Senate Discretionary Fund in these stakeholder meetings. Now, I'll recommend that you elect me, but that's just kind of to make everything official, so that you all have someone who's representing you and what you want in that role. So here's kind of the coordination and implementation team. On the left side, you can see all the stakeholders. Right there at the top, you see Lindsay Mason, the OCL director, the OCL assistant, the driver, and the program coordinator. You can go to the next slide. So the call to action piece is also super important, because I've told you a lot about the intricacies of this program, but I haven't told you why we need this program. And, we did hear a lot from all those wonderful testimonies about why things like this are needed on this campus. But let's look at some actual numbers here. As you can see, these are numbers from a survey that I recently put out, got an overwhelming response. About 23% of people who took this survey said that they have been or are temporarily disabled and have had to navigate the CSU campus. 100% of those respondents who have been or are temporarily disabled said that this presented a huge challenge to them and negatively impacted their well-being while temporarily disabled. And also 100% of respondents said that even though they were not temporarily disabled, this program is integral should they be temporarily disabled. Yeah, so these are just kind of some student quotes from the survey, and you all can read over that while I have my guest presenter come in. This is a friend of mine, Lauren, who recently had to navigate the CSU campus while temporarily disabled, and I'll hand it up to her. Go ahead and give her a big round of applause, please.
Hello, everyone. My name is Lauren Johnson, and my pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm a first-year student here at CSU, and I work at the rec center as a lifeguard. Last semester, on October 6th of 2022, I performed an audit, which is a training. It's a training that I'm required to do as a lifeguard at the rec center. And in that audit, an accident happened when I was performing a save on an individual that I fractured both of my heels because of the person I needed to save. They were in a very awkward part of the pool, and then that happened. So this injury caused me a lot of issues because I obviously became immobile very suddenly. I had to move back home to my house in Colorado Springs because CSU was not able to offer me the resources I needed to stay at CSU. I was not able to move onto a first floor dormitory because CSU accepted too many freshmen. And I was not able to have transportation to get to classes. So that opted for me to have to go home. In that time, a lot of my professors did not accommodate, even though there was an Echo 360 option that was implemented during the pandemic. So I was copying down slides for a month, which is very difficult on both my social and emotional and mental health. So if I had this as an opportunity to be able to take advantage of transportation to be able to get to classes, it would have greatly impacted my mental, emotional, and physical health, being able to get to classes, and also would have greatly improved my GPA. So having this opportunity would be incredibly helpful to me and other students, so I could not support it more.
Thank you, Lauren. So as you can see, a huge need. Any questions for Lauren before we move on? I don't think there will be any. Okay, perfect. If you can go back to that. Yep. And then you can go ahead and go to that next slide. That's outdated. So moving forward, what the next steps are. In this meeting here, we'll present the bill. You'll vote on that next week. And then I'll also be meeting with the rest of all those stakeholders that you saw to secure funding for the rest of this program. So let's move right along to this bill. I'm sorry, before we move on to the bill, any questions about the intricacies of the operation of the program? I think I should go ahead and open that up.
Senator Wright.
Will you go back to the PowerPoint?
And then Senator, no, okay, Senator Wright.
Hi, I think this is awesome. First of all, I just want to say this was a wonderful presentation. How, just on average, how many students a day do you think that this can serve? Because we're only limited to one golf cart. That's a lot of back and forth for the driving. Just so on average, how many students do you think this could serve a day?
Yeah, so for each trip, my hope is that we get those 2-row golf carts, which could seat the driver and then 3 other individuals for each trip. I don't think that there will be that many students per trip even. So my guess is that we'll be serving maybe, 10, 20 students every day. And I really have no clue, what that'll look like. That'll depend on the marketing on that as well.
Thank you. Yeah, I totally get that. And this is kind of a very specific question and totally okay if there's an 100% answer now, but do you have a specific way that can transport safely people who might be in a wheelchair or crutches, because that might be difficult to load on and off of a golf cart?
Yeah, so the driver will be trained to be able to help people with crutches get on to the golf cart. Unfortunately, the wheelchair aspect is something that I've really struggled with throughout this whole process. And I will yield to you in just a second. Let me. So the SDC and the PTS, or it might just be PTS, have a existing program that markets towards permanently disabled students, in a wheelchair. That's kind of been a pilot program right now, and they're still, working out the kinks. But, eventually I would like to either merge with them or expand this program to be able to accommodate people with wheelchairs. Right now, an ADA accessible golf cart for people with, in wheelchairs would be astronomically more expensive, a van even more so. So that's something, again, we have on our future horizons, but just getting this in the door, I think will be a great first step to achieving those horizons, if that answers your question.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, and I'll yield to you if you have something to add.
Yeah, I just want to add something really quickly about the wheelchair situation. Most people who are temporarily disabled who are going to be getting a wheelchair are not going to have a wheelchair like Senator Levin has. We have custom fit wheelchairs that don't fold. Most wheelchairs for people who are temporarily disabled fold in half, and they would then be able to fit on one of those golf carts. They would be able to fit in between the rows.
Right, and just like students on crutches, the driver will be trained to kind of help them out and get them on the vehicle.
Treasurer.
Hello. So we're gonna get into the nitty gritty.
Let's do it.
Which I'm very excited about. With experience operating within, as my operations coordinator for Ramride, we are trained on how to use a system called Sling, which is basically the back end of Ramride. We see, like the stats of cars, if like, we can even see if cars have like taken too long for like picking up folks. Very like, kind of what you would imagine, like the behind the scenes of that. So is there any kinds of who would be monitoring that? If there would be a back system, would that be something separate from Sling? That might not be answered that you might not have it at this point.
Yeah.
Okay,
Well,
what
I
would that
actually,
look like?
yeah, I actually do have those answers. So, Lindsay and I were discussing that. And because this is a trained driver, as opposed to, Ramride night operations, operate with volunteers in their own cars, I believe.
They operate out of cars from motor pool.
Okay.
But
Right, either way, volunteer basis. So the driver will be trained. They won't really need as much, minute by minute input. That back operating system will be kind of up in the background of the office. I'm not familiar with the office layout or anything, but it will be up there just in case something goes horribly wrong and they need to contact y'all.
yeah, I'm sure it would be, because there's the actual driver and then there's an additional program coordinator who would be overseeing this. I'm sure it would be under the job description to monitor.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to know.
Yeah.
That's really fun. Okay,
Perfect.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
for bringing the bill.
Senator Ayala.
Hi, just a couple of questions for you. So I think the first one I have is, what are you expecting the role of this liaison to do inside and outside of Senate?
Yeah, so I'll dive into that a little bit more once we hit the bill. But the point of the liaison is to just designate an official person to work with OCL and the other stakeholders in those meetings that I discussed, to be able to say, to speak on Senate's behalf and say, this program is operating well, this program is not operating well. And I'm in Senate. I feel like I'm perfectly qualified to do that. And same with all these other stakeholders. We're not going to continue the program if it's operating poorly. We don't want to pour our money into something that's going downhill.
Gotcha. And then another question is just like thinking about the golf carts and all this, we have like bike roads and what do you think the golf carts are going to travel with? How much, busyness at the plaza and nearing the gates and just like kind of anywhere on campus gets?
Yeah. So to my knowledge, there's only 3 or 4 buildings on CSU's campus that don't have road access, and those are on the plaza. I think, Glover might be one of them, the computer science, like right in there, those areas. So we're going to work with PTS, risk management, and the CSU admin to create a really good route for these golf carts to travel on, to where they won't be impeding traffic. PTS, as I think I'm aware, has already some studies done about where's the most traffic, pedestrian, biker, and otherwise on the CSU campus. So we'll be working with them on that.
Sounds great.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Senator Bouchard.
first of all, you are a great speaker. You seriously know what you're talking about, which is great. So weather is a huge problem in Fort Collins, and obviously these are golf carts, not like traditional four-wheel cars. So if there were to be like a snowstorm and school is still running, and like 24-hour notice isn't, you can't get 24-hour notice, what would you do then?
Yeah, so as long as school is running, we expect these golf carts to be able to run. We're going to supply the driver with cold weather gear. So that's going to be, hat, gloves, mitten, coat, all the hand warmers, all the things that are necessary for that. As far as the students riding, frankly, that's just the same as, walking or biking to class. If you're going to walk to class or bike to class from the dorms, or even walking on those really cold days when we all think we should have a snow day and we don't, even walking from your car on those days, you're going to bundle up a little bit, so they'll just dress the exact same.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yes.
Oh, Senator Doyle.
So you've said you are working with Ramride for this. Is there any app development costs that are included in your funding proposal for updating the app to work at using this sort of model?
Nope. So I would ask the parliamentarian to find that slide, but there's like 40 slides, so I'm not gonna ask you to do that. There is a slide on there that says that this system won't incur any additional costs when added to Ramride. So there's no worry there at all.
Okay. And
sorry,
then
I'll give it to Senator Trout to expand upon that.
Yeah, so the Sling app is pretty flexible. The only the only time we've needed to had any cost for updating Sling is for really big things like putting in a system where you can log in through RamWeb and then allowing you to log on. That's the only type of stuff for that. From what it sounds like to my understanding, and we can confirm on this later, it just sounds like it would just be adding another vehicle, quote unquote, onto the thing and then just tracking it on its own system like that.
Yeah,
and that's
exactly.
And that's a pretty easy system they can do just on the fly. So that's kind of how I'm imagining that. So just answering it from the back end of someone who's used that program.
Yep, right on. And Senator Doyle, did you have another thing to add?
yes, I wanted to know, how are negotiations going with parking and transportation services and the university administration? How far have you gotten with negotiating with them about this program?
So those have not officially started. So I can't speak into those since they haven't officially started. Now I am in talks with Lindsay, who's in relation with all those people. And we are confident that we can get this program approved.
Okay, thank you. I yield.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
All righty, let's go to that bill real quick. Perfect. And we can take it from here about.
Yeah, will the parliamentarian please read Bill 5220 in abstract?
Bill 5220, CSU Temporarily Disabled Student Transportation Program Funding. Abstract. This bill will ensure funding to enable the successful and sustainable creation, implementation, and operation of the Temporarily Disabled Students Transportation Program from the Senate Discretionary Fund.
Perfect. So if you'll go ahead and scroll down to the therefore clauses. I won't read the whereas clauses. That's basically everything we've just covered for the last few minutes, unless somebody would like that read. Alrighty. 1350 will be allocated to fund the driver equipment. $1,000 will be allocated to fund the marketing initiative for this. $5,542.79 will be used towards a 10% safety buffer. Now, the safety buffer is another important aspect. A very good, this was a very good choice. I think Theo, Senator Reese, chose to invest in this safety buffer because there is a clause written into the memorandum of understanding that this safety buffer amount will likely go back into the Senate discretionary fund if it's not used each year. Now we're still, again, working out negotiations with that, but we'll see where that goes. And then if you can continue scrolling down. This bill will be presented at the 5th Senate session of each year. The reason I chose that is so that it does not impede with any other first, second, or third Senate session activities, approving, cabinet members and the likes. And then you can go ahead and scroll down. And so these amounts will be continue to be given as this bill is revised on the floor each year for 4 years, at which point it'll be reassessed. And then you continue to go down. Yep, so that's the section about the representative. Again, this person will just mitigate between ASCSU Senate and OCL and the other stakeholders in regards to this program. Really, there won't be too much work being done there, but and it's not technically an official position, but it's just to make sure that Senate has a voice in these stakeholder meetings without all of you having to show up, because that would be awful. Not that I wouldn't want you there. I would love to see you all there. And yeah, that's it. Do we have any questions as it pertains to the bill?
For the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. President Ardit, thank you for presenting this bill. It looks amazing. I have a question. Earlier today, we talked about you wanting to, I believe, expedite this. I wanted to ask you a little more about that. That's still your plan.
Yeah, so expediting won't be necessary. I'm going to push it through all the necessary committees, hopefully within this week, and then get it passed the following week.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Perfect. Love to see that. The very final piece I have for y'all is the memorandum of understanding. I've outlined it a little bit already, but if you would like to see it, we can certainly put it up on the screen. Would you all like to see what we have so far on that?
Yes.
Okay, let's go ahead and put that up. Okay. And I know this is taking a long time. Very sorry, but it is a pretty complicated program. I want to make sure you all have complete transparency in the money that you're given.
Okay, okay.
While we wait, how are the Doritos today, Kyle? Sorry, Senator Hill.
They're good.
I can hear them all the way from over here. So. All righty, so here is the draft that we're working this memorandum of understanding from. Really, this is just kind of your typical contract. Many of you have signed leases before. It looks pretty much the same as that. It's just going to outline everything that's in the bill. So it'll be signed into contract form. The bill is only good for 1 year. The contract is good under Colorado law.
Point of order, Senate can't sign contracts, only the executive branch can.
So this will be signed by the ASCSU advisor and the Senate Budgetary Affairs Committee chair, kind of on behalf of the Senate. And Robbie Long. President Long. Does that answer your point of order there for Senator Doyle?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Any other questions on the MOU? All right, with that, I'll hand it back over to you.
All right, seeing no further questions, I will send this bill to University Affairs, DEI, and Budgetary Committees.
Thank you.
We'll now move on to executive reports. Is there anyone from the executive branch that wishes to report at this time? Director Kinnear?
Hello.
We could have the quorum in the chamber, please. Thank you.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is Kenneth Kinnear. I'm the Director of Environmental Affairs. First, I'd like to say thank you to all those who shared about their personal experiences with disabilities. As an able-bodied person, just hearing that, it's been really impactful, and it's allowed me to kind of reevaluate the way I approach my role as a student representative. We as student representatives, we have, tremendous power and ability to be the change that we want to see. And I know that maybe sometimes that's, operating in this space. Maybe sometimes that's operating on a more personal level, helping students who or are familiar with, get the accommodations they need because we are their voice. So whether that's, you even reaching out to a professor on behalf of a student, or if someone's interested in an event, but they have a accommodation concern, reaching out to the organizers. I think that's definitely something that we can do. And that goes for the events that I'm about to present as well throughout Earth Month. So if there's an accommodation concern, just please reach out to me. But yeah, so this is Earth Month. It's kind of our department's time to shine, so to speak. We're putting on a large variety of events, especially during the third week of Earth Month. So I'll be back here next Senate session to speak more on those. But next week, and I posted this in the Slack as well, so you can reference that. But next Wednesday, April 12th, at the Lyric Theater, North Fort Collins, we're doing a screening of the film My Octopus Teacher. It's a documentary about a South African diver who develops a relationship with a non-human animal. And it's a really powerful and emotional film. So doors will open at the Lyric at 3:30 p.m. It'll be in the Space Theater room. First screening will be at 4 p.m., which I know you all can make. And then the second screening will be at 6 p.m. Yeah, it's free admission to students. So tell everyone there is a maximum seat capacity of 77 for this first screening event. So it's really first come, first serve. But I'm hoping that those who want to attend can make it. So yeah, with that, thank you, and I'll turn it over to Hayden.
people that came that the fire chief had to move people out of the city council room. And then 75 people spoke. I would guess about 60 of those were for talking about U+2, which was amazing. So pat yourselves on the back for that. I don't think it got on the ballot, but the fight is not over. Excellent job, everybody. And then there are going to be a lot of exec events coming up that will need volunteers. And so keep an eye out for all of that. And I believe, I can't speak for Senate here, but I believe you can fill some of your senator hours doing some of that volunteering. And so I would love to see you all out at those events. As for personal stuff, that regarding exec, we did our little exec bonding thing, did a bowling night. Not too many people showed up, but we had a good time. That meant that we had more tokens to spend at the arcade and people got awesome prizes. I remember, I believe Marcus and Alejandra and Kylie and Ted all they won so many tickets that the workers had to keep coming back and putting more tickets into the machine. They had to do it like 5 times. It was ridiculous. Anyway, next time we throw an event, I would love to see you all there. And then that being said, I am working on a wonderful project with Alejandra here.
Hey y'all, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Alejandra. I use she, they pronouns, and I'm currently the Deputy Director of Graphic Design, so I work with Grace a lot. And Hayden and I basically just wanted to announce that we're going to have body project workshops coming up. For those of you who don't know what the body project is, it is a group-based intervention for female and non-binary identifying individuals, where we confront unrealistic body image standards and kind of talk about body positivity and how we can all incorporate that in our lives. So we have 2 workshops coming up. The first sessions are on April 11th and 18th from 5 to 7 p.m. And the second workshop is April 20th and 27th from 4 to 6 p.m. And I'll go ahead and hand out these along with Hayden. And there's a QR code that y'all can scan to learn more.
Yeah, it's free. It's based on doctoral research. It's peer-led, so it's not just somebody talking at you, telling you to be more confident in yourself, you know. I think it's a really amazing thing, and I learn something new every time I lead a workshop. So I hope I see some of you there.
Hey folks, I'll keep it short and sweet. I'm Charlie. I use they, them pronouns, Director of Diversity and Inclusion. The CSU drag show is this weekend. Definitely show up. It's going to be super fun. Yeah. As well as there's going to be a lot of SDPS events happening, not only wrapping up the semester, but in addition to Earth Month, April is a PETA and Swana Heritage Month, as well as Sexual Assault Awareness Month. So there's going to be a lot of stuff coming through APAC as well as the WGAC. So make sure to ask your SDPS senators about how to get involved and keep your eye on the calendar in the back of the office. Thanks.
Hello, everyone. I'm Reed Vega, your Director of Traditions and Programs. I would like to formally invite each and every one of you to the eyeball that will be happening in LSC Ballroom D on May 4th at 6:30 p.m. There will be food, there will be music, there will be fun, and hopefully there will be drinks. And with that, I'll be sending out 3 more surveys. I'm going to resend the RSVP survey. You've already filled it out. Thank you so much. Great. You don't need to repeat it. If you have not yet filled it out, please, 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 please fill out the RSVP form. That's the most important one, so I know how many people to expect. And then in addition to that, we have song request forms for the music that's going to be playing. If I don't get any requests, it's all going to be Kodak. And they will also be oh, the survey for the awards voting, that one's also kind of important, because if nobody votes in that survey, then I choose the awards and who gets them. So please vote in that one as well. Thank you.
Hi everyone. My name is Jorge. I'm the Director of Housing Securities. I just want to thank everyone last night for coming out. I think there was over 350 people at that event, which is just really crazy to imagine. I kind of looked around after I gave public comment and all the chairs were full. There was probably like 5 rows. There was people outside. It was just such an incredible night. And it just shows that like our city of Fort Collins isn't really engaging with our students, right? And so honestly, if it takes 200 people for the next 3 city council meetings to show up for city council to put it on the ballot, that's what we will do, you know? And so there is gonna be a working session on May 9th, which they will be talking about occupancy limits and what they're gonna do with it. Right now, it's really, really complicated, and I mean, housing right now, especially in the state of Colorado, is something that's really, really unique. And I think that, you know, council's just waiting on what happens on the state level. For those that don't know, Governor Polis introduced the bill, and you could correct me if this is wrong, but it's the SB 213. And so what it does is it would also get rid of all housing occupancy limits, which, I mean, it's crazy to think about. By May 7th, we either are going to be talking about it being on the ballot because of city council, or the state just removes it, right? Which is still crazy. And so I would just keep recommending people to go down to city council on April 18th and May 2nd. When they do host city council, and just speaking your mind about U+2 and how it should be removed. And honestly, how, you know, council shouldn't be waiting for the state to do something about it, right? Why don't they do something about the issue? They've had over 20 years to fix it and still haven't fixed anything. So yeah, if anyone has any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I will be there on April 18th and May 2nd, once again, talking about U+2. And so I hope to see all of y'all there. And yeah.
Can we give Jorge a round of applause? Won't work as hard as he does, and he never lets himself take credit, so.
It was all a group effort.
What was I gonna say? Yeah, I'll make it quick because I know we've got a big night. I just want to say one thing. I just recently placed the order for the new quarter zips. So hopefully those of you who didn't get a quarter zip the first time around filled out that form. We had some finance problems with it at first, but they've officially been placed. Please leave the front desk alone. When the quarter zips arrive, we will let you know. It should be in the next couple of weeks. So let me know if you have any questions. And yeah, just reach directly out to me because the front desk, yeah, just leave them alone, please. Yeah, just reach out to me. All right, love you all. Thank you.
Anyone else from the executive branch that wishes to report at this time? Seeing none, judicial report.
For y'all that don't know me, my name is Marcus Zacharias. I use the he series of pronouns, and I serve as the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. The court's been extremely busy with court business. Beyond that, we also helped out with the U+2 event. Yesterday, we also have planned a pot day happening on 4/20, April 20th. So we would love for all of y'all to come out. We're giving out succulents that day with a lot of help from Kenneth. So I really hope that y'all show out, come interact with us, Slice, and the CSU representatives that they're sending. Beyond that, I just want to say, since we're starting to approach the end of the semester and the end of my term here, if you have any questions about the inner workings of the Supreme Court, please don't hesitate to ask. I would love to meet with any and every one of y'all to talk about what the Chief Justice does, what the rest of the Supreme Court does, and what that process looks like. And with that, I hope y'all have a great night.
Yes, Chair Trout.
I'd like to make a motion to have a 10-minute recess. It's been a long night so far. And I feel like they get up and stretch.
Okay, all those in favor of doing a 10-minute recess, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Abstentions?
Aye.
I'll do this by placard because I heard divisions. So all those in favor, please raise your placard for a 10-minute recess.
I have a question, point of information, could we take 5 minutes instead of 10?
Would you amend your motion? Be fine.
We can make that 5 if that makes folks easier.
Yeah, that does just.
Yeah, okay, then I
Is there
a motion to be 5 minutes to 10.
Is there a second for that motion? Okay. All those in favor, we'll do this by voice vote now. All those in favor of a 5-minute recess, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, abstentions.
Abstain.
We'll see you at 9:07. No.
I need it.
So what's next is the expansion.
That's really, yep, yeah.
Can I mean, I have scalability.
I know that legislation doesn't require discussion and debate on first reading. I don't know if we can skip it down. At 10 minutes.
Because I know there's a rule somewhere, like if we adjourn order business looked at, then I could send it to topic and then so that it doesn't.
No, I mean, me taking it forward, just try and see if I can find it. Yeah.
If we could get folks that are outside back in the chamber so we could start as soon as possible, that would be greatly appreciated.
So you do. Section 4, subsection B. In the case of sessions adjourned, the agenda items unaddressed by the committee of their choosing. For consideration.
Okay, so I think what we could do is we'll go to the travel grant. Expedited, and then the resolution, it just adjourn and listen.
Let's say. Yeah, that would also be fine to adjourn.
I don't hold the authority to. I think.
That was it. Seven. Yeah, that's in the case of. See
Yeah, sure. Just, yeah, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, where's that?
Okay, we're gonna get back in order. Please get to your seats. So we have two pieces of new business and then that's it. They're both in their first reading, but one does need to be expedited tonight. I wanted to ask Chair Salazar with your resolution, are you willing to skip the presentation and just send it off to committee? Or do you want to do the presentation? It's up to you. Just send it to my committee and we'll just see it. Okay, so I'll send the resolution for the expansion of all gender housing to DEI committee, University Affairs, and we'll do internal affairs as well. So more people could look at it. And then now we will move into the travel grant bill.
Hi, everyone. My name is David Wise. I'm the Deputy Director of Finance and I manage the travel grant. So the purpose of this bill is to provide funding to the travel grant because it has hit zero. We have allocated all of the budget to help different students and student organizations attend professional, developmental, and educational trip experiences. So what I am proposing here is that $6,000 be moved from Senate to the travel grant, and then anything that's left over after the fiscal year will be reverted into the ASCSU fund.
Are there any additional questions for this presenter, Senator Hill?
Regarding travel grants, are you expecting any more organizations to come for the rest of the year for like travel grants, requests and whatnot?
I haven't heard from any, but there's still potential as the funding our funding period ends the 31st of May. And there's a 35-day delay between when they have to apply and when they take the trip. So there's still potential for new applicants.
Thank you. That's all you know. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Any other questions? At this point, I'd entertain a motion to expedite this piece of legislation.
I motion to expedite.
I motion to expedite this piece of legislation with unanimous consent.
Fantastic. So we will now vote on this. Well, we'll do discussion and debate on this piece of legislation first, and then we'll move into a voting period. So we'll do 10 minutes of Q&A, starting with the first raised placard. Any discussion, debate? Senator Kimberly.
I was going to motion a previous question if people actually just ask. I didn't listen now. I motioned a previous question, Mr. Speaker.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor? So now we are voting on, we're voting on exiting the discussion debate period right now. So all those in favor of moving to a voting period, say aye. All those
Aye.
Abstentions? Okay. I would now seek a motion of unanimous consent.
I motion to pass this bill with unanimous consent.
Is there any dissent to that motion? Seeing none, this bill passes.
Thank you all. Thank you.
And now I would entertain a motion to adjourn with unanimous consent. Yep. Is there any dissent to that motion? Seeing no dissent, we have adjourned.
I have no idea what.
Why are we sitting here? We're adjourned.
Wait, if we could have the court in the chamber, please.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, go back and put in the ballots.
Okay, I'm gonna ask the committee to come on down and you can like line me up on these seats on the other side.
The candidates up here? They're kind of spread all over.
Maybe we can have them sit. I don't know if they.
Okay, so I have to ask, have we not adjourned or have we adjourned? What's going on now?
We're currently adjourned and they're presenting the election results. Beginning roll call was used as ending roll call.
Okay.
Okay, everyone, if you don't know me, I'm Grace Newman. I'm the elections manager, and we have officially come to the end of the 2023-2024 voting season for presidential, speaker, and senator. So I just want to take a second and congratulate all of the candidates for their hard work, my elections committee for their hard work, for ASCSU as a whole for allowing the students to use their voice. So with that being said, yes. With that being said, we're going to jump on in. I know we've all been here for a while and everyone is anticipating this. So we'll start off with some notable write-ins. This is always fun. Yeah, I can get behind Darth Vader running this place. I think that would be interesting. Yeah, so that's been fun. Again, just thanking the candidates and the elections committee. It really has been a long 2.5 weeks. I know it's been tiring for everyone. My committee has done a great job working as liaisons, facilitating, and I know the candidates have been out engaging with students. Really appreciate their hard work and dedication to the student body in ASCSU. So with that being said, here are the senators that are voted into office. Yeah, I'm excited to see that people want to stay engaged and yeah, show up and represent students. All right, Speaker of the Senate. Again, thank you so much to Ava and to Hayden for their dedication and all their hard work. And with that being said, it is my honor and privilege to announce that Ava Ava, once you're done, celebrate. You can come and join me up here. Again, thank you, Hayden. We really appreciate you. Yeah, Hayden. Okay, next we're gonna go into some numbers. The percentage total was 14.49. Total votes, 4,438. Love to see that up from last year. I'm really proud again, everyone talking about voting, encouraging people to vote, seeing a lot more student involvement and students being able to use their voice. This was a good, we had 4 candidates, tickets for president, vice president, so very competitive race. We had 316 votes separating the first and second place president and VP candidates. So it was a close race, but again, I'm proud of everyone who's in this race. So it is my honor. Yes, drum roll, please. Okay. It is my honor to announce that Nick Picard. Congratulations, candidates, if you want to join me up here. And again, I want to thank all other candidates for running and having dedication to the students. I really think all of you did a great job, and yeah, you should be proud of yourselves. Okay, and if any senators that got elected want to come up here too, we'll have all of next year's elected officials up here.
Congratulations. Good job, Nick.
All right, thank you everyone for sticking through, and congratulations to this year's winners.
Wait, did the Constitution pass?
The Constitution did pass, and with yeah, and if anyone cares about the shirt design, I think it was the second one with the red. Thank you, everyone. Have a great, safe night.
Wait, can we also thank the election committee? Thank you, election committee.
Thanks for joining